This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
It was September 1939, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What were you doing actually then? How old were you?
9 years old.
Oh, so old? Yeah.
I remember listening to the radio
Yeah.
and hearing Neville Chamberlain announce that war being declared against Germany.
And we were at war with Germany, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
And we kids all thought it was wonderful.
One day we were going to be down the airport, cycling around like we did hunting cliffs on our bikes, and all of a sudden it was just getting dimsy, and these Junkers 88s come over, I think it was, and they bombed the airport, machine gun, bullets flying everywhere. And I was just more frightened than you like then, and jumped over the hedge. David was there and Ron Sanford. And another day, when they bombed the airport, we were sitting on a bank, and it was a lovely clear day in August, and there wasn't many clouds about, but just a few, and all of a sudden this plane came out of a cloud. Oh, we wondered what it was. It dived in on the airport and dropped the bombs, and a sort of explosion, and off he went. The Spitfires went up, but I don't think we ever caught it, because about a month after that we had the big raid of the night. We lived in a bungalow, and all of a sudden we woke up, a hell of a noise. Glass coming out of the bungalow. There was a row of bungalows down towards the airport, and we thought it was a moonlight night and the roofs were shining, whether they thought it was airport buildings.
The first time the sirens went could only have been a couple of days after war was declared, isn't it? Wasn't long.
Oh no, they pretty well, yeah.
Mother hiked us all out of bed. We sat under the kitchen table down in the dining room. Nothing happened. There was no bombs or anything like that. And that used to go on and all night after night. In the end, we got so fed up we just used to stay in bed, really. I know Mother got us up one night and we got downstairs and it was all clear. But if there was a raid, we used to come out and go into the cupboard. Under the stairs, in the cupboard under the stairs.
It was the safest place.
That was
You had a Morrison shelter, did you? Or?
No. We couldn't have an Anderson shelter in the garden because we started to dig down and got the water. There was a shelter over on the green. We used to go over there sometimes, because as kids we almost used to pray for the siren to go so we could go and play cards in the middle of the night.
We must have done, but anyway, we bought a house in Ladysmith Road, and that's where I joined Civil Defence Messengers. And I was a messenger boy then for a while, and while I was a messenger boy we had the big raid. Well, a couple of raids actually before the big one, but this time I wasn't on duty the night of the big raid, and the sirens went. I thought, oh, I'm going to lay there, and all of a sudden I was nearly blown out of bed because they started bombing, and I looked out the window and there was a bomb just dropped in Ladysmith School, and I got out dressed quickly and ran down towards the ARP post then to go sign on duty, and all of a sudden I heard what sounded like an express train, and just incendiaries coming all over the place. Everything was burning. And I had to go to the fire station as a messenger. That was his job. And I can remember the ARP warden, Mr. Yendo, from the shop. You had to write out a message on your pad. I cycled down to the fire station, and I got along Ladysmith Road, and I got to Pennsylvania, and I looked down the town, and everything, the whole town was on a blaze. So I went the other way along around Union Road and down. Anyway, I did in my message, and then he said they'd come in again. I mean, it just going everywhere. Got back to Ladysmith Road, I couldn't go indoors because there was a landmine outside in the road, a time bomb. So we had to evacuate again then, and we were away about a week.
Well, Edna was fire watching in the middle of Bedford Street, or what was then Bedford Circus. Father, of course, was out with the ARP, and Mother and I were on our own. Sat under the stairs as usual, and it started what, at 1 o'clock? Somewhere around about there, wasn't it? Over about an hour and a half, and it was just well, continual barrage of guns and bombs. In high explosives coming down, that awful whistle. And it finished through, I say, about an hour and a half, and then everybody sort of gradually crept out, and we hadn't got any windows left. All the houses were, you know, badly shook. But of course we were worried because there was no sign of Edna. We couldn't think what had happened to her. Father tried to get uptown, couldn't get anywhere near High Street, everything was ablaze. And it must have been about 6 o'clock in the morning before she came back. And they'd have to go right down Rents and Leonard's, right down the canal, and come up the river and Bonnie Road because they couldn't get down through the town. I wanted to go up and see what was happening, and Father packed me off back to the farm next day, much to my disgust.
My sister was in the ATS. ATS, what's the ATS?
Yeah.
And she was in the Army Pay Corps, and they had an office down there, and she just happened to be, she went on duty that day or something, and they dropped, a plane came up the River X, German, followed his way up, and he dropped the bomb. I don't know what he was looking miles out, whether he was going to get come up the railway or whether he was going to get to the station. But the bombs went off in Holloway Street and hit one of the offices and killed quite a few of them.
There were several people killed there.
The army people and that. At 16 you had to register and you were encouraged to join something. And a lot of the lads joined like the Army Cadets or the Air Force or the Naval Cadets. And I went into Civil Defence Messengers. That's how I got into sort of Civil Defence Messengers. And then it went on. When you were 17 you had to register for the army. Well, just before I was 18, I'd be calling up papers to report to the Guards Depot Caterham. Then you do your army training at the Guards Depot where you run about everywhere. I mean, we were like prisoners because you weren't allowed out, and it was pretty grim at the Guards Depot as a recruit. I was there for a while, and then we went on this special course because the war was still on. And the idea was that we were going to go to Burma, that's what they said, with the Chindits. Because what we'd done, we trained with the Royal Engineers in bridge building and mine detecting and mine laying, booby trapping and that sort of thing, and blowing up things. And it was quite a laugh really. But to say, the incident, when we were laying minefields, we had to lay a minefield, anti-personnel mine, just like a mine, like a flower pot, with a explosion in it, and a cartridge that fires it and tripwires. And when you trip over the wire, the mine would come up in the air and explode about that high. It's a sort of an anti-personnel mine because it would injure people, and obviously injuring people was worse than killing them in a way, because they wouldn't hold up anything. And we had to go out at night and find these mines, and we were letting them off all over the place. Obviously there weren't explosives in the mine, but there was a cartridge blowing in the air. And I'm afraid the officer wasn't very pleased by that. And then when I come back, I found that I was posted, the name was down for Wellington Barracks, and I knew what that was going to be, public duties. Buckingham Palace, St James's Palace, and Kensington, because there was German officers there, we used to guard them. And the Bank of England, that was quite interesting. In the Bank of England, they I saw on HQ orders that they wanted a carpenter down at the Guards Depot. So I went back to the Guards Depot as a carpenter, and that's where I sort of got them up. So it wasn't too bad really. And
I was sent up to the farm near Coomhays, no, not Coomhays, Cotton Farm. Not evacuated, I just used to go there for my Easter and summer holidays. I mean, we weren't all that far from Tiverton, but you would have known there was a war on up there. There was no television, obviously, in those days, no newspapers, unless you walked miles to get one. I don't think they even had a radio, I can't remember. So up there, it was a different world altogether. And food was not plentiful, but obviously they all grew their own vegetables and things. There was plenty of that, plenty of milk and butter, and it was lovely. I used to enjoy it up there.
What sort of rationing did we used to have? It was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Pretty bad. I can't remember the amount. I think it was something like a half pound of butter for the 4 of us for a week.
Yeah.
Something like that. cheese was rationed.
A little tiny bit of cheese we used to get,
Yeah,
didn't we?
about 2 ounces, I think. Meat was rationed to a certain extent. I mean, you had to queue up for everything. I can't remember. Oh, sweets. Yeah, sweets were rationed. We had sweet coupons.
Yeah.
So what we used to do, there was 4 of us, you see, in the family. So every Friday, Edna or I would go and take the week's sweet coupons for the 4 of us and buy the sweets, and that was our treat on a Friday. We probably had 1 bar of chocolate or something like that between us, but
Broke it.
that's what we used to do. We never went short of anything. I don't know, our mother used to make stuff when you think of it. I mean, Christmas, we always managed a Christmas cake, and
But
she used to make jellies for any parties or anything with, I think it was with orange squash and gelatine. The top half was alright, but the bottom was pretty revolting. And I remember those blessed parsnips she used to boil and mix with banana essence and make sandwiches out of it.
it tasted a bit like banana.
It tasted like banana, yeah, but that was the sort of things you used to do to get over it. We never went hungry.
No, we managed.
We managed
But
somehow.
we living in the country, we had better things, I suppose. We could get more vegetables.
We could always get eggs and things from the farm. In 1943 we did go up to North Devon for a week. Father took us away onto a farm. And that was a marvellous place up there. I mean, they didn't know the war was on. The food was plentiful. There were a couple of army officers staying there on leave while we were there. And it was peaceful. You away from everything. A nice break.
Did you go on the beaches there at all?
Yes,
could,
more or less, yes. I mean, but for walks anyway, you wouldn't sit on the beach and go swimming or
No,
anything like that. You
some
sit at all these barbed wire everywhere.
Some places they had landmines.
Yeah. The day when it came was obviously great excitement. We had parties. I don't know where the mums got the food from, but we had a terrific party out in the green over Tavistock Road. We had a bonfire. Every bit of rubbish we could lay our hands on. Laid at the table. We had a whale of a time. Then in the evening, I remember going up into the town, and everybody was dancing in the streets because we had loads of Americans there by that time. It was just a wonderful evening. Everybody was, all the church bells were ringing, which had been silent for years, because they would only have been used if it had been an invasion. I can remember seeing the cathedral all lit up.
Amazing, isn't it? You know, everybody was dancing in the streets. Marvellous time. White song, singing, and the Queen come out on Buckingham Palace, you know, playing all the royal
Princess
people.
Elizabeth, she was there. Princess Elizabeth, she was
Well,
there.
Princess Elizabeth, yeah, because the King was still.
The
Yeah,
King was still not there.
that's what the good walk.
Winston Churchill came out with them.
Yeah,
Welcome.
we were. I was there.